one I really want to point out that is like a complete wild card pick. Okay? And you guys are gonna be like, what is he act like? You guys are gonna actually ask me like what I'm cooking.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Chilling Neigh Podcast, your premier VGC podcast. My name is Rashil, aka Konkledunk VGC, and I'm joined by my co-hosts Tommy and Ryan. What is up, guys?
Not much. Glad we got Tommy back this week, though. I can make fun of Sci Spam. It's actually gonna mean something. But Tommy, what's going on, man? Where you been?
I'm back. Like, I missed you guys because we skipped a week for Thanksgiving, and I got busy for a week. I was like, oh my god, I haven't talked to these guys like face to face in a while. And Conk, we talk for a while before these episodes start, and when I hear your voice inflection change when you say hello, I'm like, oh, it's game time. Like you say hello very similarly every time, and like that's like been the oral cue for me to be like, all right, we're ready, we're recording. So like, I'm so happy to be back. Thank you
It
guys
took a
for
little
holding
bit.
on the fort. Well, I'm sorry,
It took
what?
a little bit more to muster it up in the morning. We're doing this at 8 a.m. everyone. So,
Thank you for
we
working my
Tommy
schedule.
is thriving with a new job, but that required us a little bit of a schedule change. So, we are. I am not normally an early morning person, so we are adjusting this week.
Yeah, no, I'm having a
All
lot
right.
of fun. There's some Band-Aid haze. I got some woofies. I'm dropping these off at good Jersey Mike's for the whole crew. And yeah, it's been a fun, wild ride so far.
Love it, love it. Well, we have a few things to catch up on and then a really fun discussion coming up. So let's start with the Stuttgart regionals in Germany
Yep.
that happened over the past weekend, I believe. Congrats to Lorenzo Silvestrini for winning with Hisuian Arcanine again.
Again.
Yep,
Um,
again.
again, so it was Flutterilla, Hisuian Arcanine, Torn Urshifu, and Goldengo. So Torn Urshifu on both teams in the finals. Nils Dunlop was the runner-up. Um, Actually, four of the same six: Torn Ursh, Goldengo,
Yep,
Rillaboom, and
yep.
then Nils had a Heart
Reggie
Flame,
Drigo.
Ogerpon, and a Regidrago. So really, really kind of the meat and potato stuff that we've been seeing for all of Regulation E. But curious on your guys' thoughts on anything in the finals or top eight or any cool teams you guys saw in day
Yeah.
two.
Honestly, I'm not gonna go over the 62 million torn ogres again that won. Two things I do want to point out. There was a ton of King Gambit, which I absolutely love to see. I am a King
Yeah.
Gambit believer. And I also want to point out, I don't want to say the return of Ogerpon because it never really went anywhere. But we've got an Ogerpon, two fire versions in second and third, and then the next three
Yep,
teams all have the water Ogerpon. So that's five
yep.
out of the top eight that are all just Ogerpon again. Like everybody was like, "Oh, Ogerpon's falling off." It was just like a new gimmick thing, and then people got used to it. But here it is again. It's a good mon. You are going to be seeing it as long as it's legal.
Yep.
Excuse me. But I love the Goldango dominance too. We've been seeing in different online tours Goldango's usage and win percentage being very, very high. And if its usage isn't that high, its win percentage is.
Yeah.
Like the good players have been piloting it well. And to see four in the top eight stood out to me too, as someone who was like, wait, I thought this kind of took a back seat to a lot of the metagame right now. It came out in full force at this regional.
It's just go ahead.
Yeah, Goldengo is super cool. I think there was like the top eight was a really cool representation of
Yeah.
like standard meta combined with like some niche picks. Like we see, Torn Ursh kind of dominating. Obviously the top three teams there have it, and then at seven as well. But we also see mons like Lando I at seventh with the world's runner-up Michael Kelsch. Um, we also see Dragapult. Or sorry, I was at sixth. Lando I was at sixth
Yeah.
with
Yeah, Lando, I
Danielle
was sick.
early, and then Michael Kelch was using Dragapult and Indeedee on a
Yeah,
fast team.
solo
No
and
side
Didi.
ban. Yep,
Yeah.
I
solo
love it.
Indeedee. We saw that. Yep, it was super cool. We saw that at the finals of LAIC,
With Regilecki. Yep.
and on a fast team with just Indeedee support, and Michael took that and clearly did super well with it with the
Mm-hmm.
same similar concept. And then like we're seeing also
Yep.
Salamence in fifth. We're seeing that Roaring Moon at fourth. So
I wanted to bring up
and
Roaring
Reggie
Moon.
Drago at second.
What's up with
Was
Roaring
that?
Moon? I thought it was going to have a higher usage in the top 16. There's only 2 in the top
Sh-
16. There's
sh-
more Salamences. And
sh-
it's like, I thought Roaring Moon was in a pretty good position in this metagame right now, but I guess I was wrong about that.
No, no, I don't think you are. Shoutouts to Roaring Moon, and as a Roaring Moon main for the last little bit, shoutouts to Roaring Moon for making Regulation E playable, by the way. This
That's what I
format is
thought.
garbage, in my opinion, but Roaring Moon makes it playable, and Roaring Moon is a very good piece. The problem is, it is not as. I'm trying to find a way to word this, so I'm just going to kind of go with what off the top of my head comes, but, like, I don't know.
Let it flow.
Like,
Let
it's
it out.
not as easy to pilot, so to speak. Like, it requires a lot of brain power, requires a lot of work. So there's other strategies that don't require nearly as much of that, like the Torn Urge. Not that it doesn't take like brain power and Urge to pilot, but sometimes you can just walk in, Tailwind, Surge, and go burr, right? With Roaring Moon, you still have to. Yes, you can still go Tailwind plus a big move, go burr, but it's not as easy when you're going up against the likes of a Prankster Tailwind user or you're going up against Trick Room, right? It requires a lot more brain power. So I definitely don't disagree with people maybe dropping it off a little bit, but it is still a really good mod.
The players I've seen do well with it are all brighter too. Like Marco, I forget who else was running Marco's similar team. Was it Rios? The Canadian crew. Like the people I've seen piloting, my friend Katori, like all the Roaring Moon players I know are like on the brighter side too. So that actually makes sense, Abel. I like that little breakdown.
Yeah, it's really just a question of how hard do you want to have to work for your wins. Roaring Moon can definitely do it, but there
It can
other
make you work.
things that
Yep.
just give you wins and fit your playstyle a little bit quicker, which is completely fair.
Yeah, if you look at like some of the top mons or some of the top teams from this tournament, like Roaring Moon doesn't love to face, Prankster Tailwind plus Reggie Drago,
Hmm.
Prankster
Yeah.
Tailwind plus even honestly like Tailwind plus Urshifu, you have to kind of think about the Terramine game, right? Of the close
Mhm.
combat versus the surging strikes. Even just eating up Chanpao Dragonite doesn't love that either. So there's some it is definitely really good against the Firewater Grass cores,
Yeah.
but you don't want to face like you have to be kind of it can be a Terra Hog in terms of in front of
Yeah.
flutters and stuff like that. So it's definitely a mon that takes some practice and experience to play because it can be kind of tricky if you're not used to it or comfortable with it.
Yeah. You just kind of got to
This
like,
regulation's so close to over. Sorry to say, Ryan,
yeah.
but yeah, this regulation's so close to
Yeah.
over. People aren't investing the time to learn it right now, I
Yeah,
guess.
and I think that's part of it as well. It's one of those mons where you really kind of have to know when you tear it and when you don't want to tear it, because sometimes it's good to just kind of let that piece go and not waste your tear on it. But then other times it's like, no, I need this piece. I need to tear it. I need to keep it alive. All right, so I
Yep.
think you're right there, Tommy. Is like it does take that learning curve, because when I first picked my version of the team up, it was ugly. I was honestly I was gonna drop it, and I was like, it's not clicking, it's not going, it's not flowing the way I want it to flow. And then I grinded it out a few more times, like with a few more ladder sessions, and I'm like, okay, this is starting to work now. I can kind of see when I'm supposed to be doing things in and out, like making the switches, not making the switches. But
The light
learning it
bulb
felt
moment
pretty
happened for you.
rewarding to me. Just like I said, is it more work than people are willing to put in at the moment to get through wins, which is completely fair.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm curious on your guys' thoughts because I think Sableye would kind of refer to this a little bit, but curious on your guys' thoughts on Regulation E as a whole. I think there's been some of the community discourse of more negative thoughts on Regulation E, but I'm curious because I have a little bit more of a different perspective on it. So curious on what you guys thought of Regulation E as a whole as we kind of wrap up the DLCs coming and we have our last regional in Regulation E this weekend.
Tommy, go
I feel
for
like
it.
we gotta let Ryan go off.
Oh,
No, Ryan, you
you're
go
letting
off
me
first.
go off? Okay.
Yeah, I'll let you go off first.
Not like this. Okay, so in my opinion, yes, I said it before. I was not a huge fan of Regulation E. But keep in mind, as I'm trashing Regulation E, I am not entirely against any format. I think there's tons of opportunities for people to enjoy different formats, and that's one of the biggest things I enjoy about this game, is that we all enjoy it in different ways. But for me, Regulation E felt way too, and I don't want to say centralized, because there's not necessarily anything wrong with a centralized meta, because sometimes having those mods that you know you need to build against, or those mods you know you need to build for, is good for the metagame. But sometimes when it
Great for me.
feels like if I'm not doing a certain thing, or I'm not using this certain core, I am hindering my chances of winning, especially when that core is in a way behind a paywall, when you have to have Sword and Shield at this point in order to get Urshifu and stuff.
Yeah.
Not that that's a big thing. That doesn't really affect the format. That was kind of like a side point. But like, it just
Right.
feels in this format, if I am not using Tornadus Urshifu or any sort of aggressive anti-Torn Urshifu tech, my team is going to crumble, and there's not a whole lot I can do about it. Obviously, there's ways to get around that. It just didn't feel as creative for me. So when I started using Roaring Moon and not too many other people were using it, it was, hey, I finally found something that clicks with me, my style of team. I'm not using the big guns in this format. Well, I mean, I really was. It was like 8 of the top 12 mons, but like 6 of the top like 8 mons, but we don't talk about that. It just felt like it wasn't those big, like, I wasn't using those big Torn Urshifu pieces, you know, those pieces that like were so optimal to use. So it was good to have something like that, but once again, I just wasn't a huge fan of how centralized it became, how fast it became so centralized.
Yeah, that's definitely fair. I think so. I tweeted something about this recently, but it's funny because I've been seeing a lot of the kind of negative thoughts towards Regulation E because of Torn Urshifu, and I think playing some more standard teams like that 100% makes sense. And then there's players like me and Tommy, I'm sure, that play a little bit more wacky teams. Like I ran Pow Knight Dozo
Yep.
for like the first half of Regulation E, and then since then I've been running a high like this hybrid side spam team. Um,
I love your team, by
that
the way.
yeah, I've gotten a lot of comments on the team, which I'm like, it's funny because I built it like 5 minutes before PC because I was like, oh, like I need something that's not 222 because everyone knows I run Dozo, so I'm like, let me run something else. Slapped it
It clicked.
together, and it's gotten me a ton of points since then.
Yeah.
But it's something that is a pretty good counter to Torn Urshifu, and so I've been really enjoying the
Hmm.
format because it's something that like I have a pretty positive matchup into like some of the more like scary stuff. And so like it's something that I found a team that really vibed with me. That was something that I really made me enjoy this format. I feel like that's like a key to enjoying a lot of these formats is can you find a team that even if it's like, oh, there's a really aggressive core, there's a really like aggressive um mon or something like that that's kind of dominating, like can you find your own little niche team that reliably counters that or reliably just helps you to do well in a format that maybe is dominated by, something like Tornursh. So I personally enjoyed Regi quite a bit.
Reg E was the first time I was stress free in a format where I was like, I'm not going to any major
Yep.
events. I have no regionals this format. Let me try to explore something new. And I explored Dozo a bit, and I really fell in love with the 222, the Lily Cole, the Psy Spam, the Dozo Tatsu. And then I've been exploring, like, then this was the first format where I've taken over 10 days off of playing since London Worlds in 2022. Like, since the London
Oh,
Open, this is the first time, like, this format, I've kind of given myself a mental break, which is definitely different than a lot, like, the people that have been grinding it out, trying to get that invite, trying to get those points. And, just watching it from afar mostly and just playing like once a week every Tuesday, just picking up whatever team I have. Like I use the Taipei finalist team because he's a friend. He's in the Hard Trick Room server. Shout out Bruno. He made a Hard Trick Room server, and it's like me, Len, and Bruno are the mods. And we got some crazy people in there. I love it. I absolutely love it. And Johnny Chow is one of the people, and he made finals at Taipei with Hatterene, Psy Spam, Torkoal, Lilligant, Ursaluna team.
Nice.
And it's just like, all right, let me pick this up and try it tomorrow. I know these 6 pieces. Let's just have fun with it. And I brought most of my games to game 3, but I went 1-4 with it. So it's like the Taipei, metagame must be a bit different than here. Johnny's just that good of a player playing around stuff. I did bring a lot to game 3s, but I was like, I haven't played in a while. Let me just pick up this team and go.
Why not?
And this isn't one of those formats where I think you can as easily. You need to kind of like stay warm, stay updated with the meta as much, so you know what to bring when exactly. Like Rillaboom Heat Ran counter size spam really hard right now. So it's like you have to have a specific plan to play into those guys. You have to have a specific plan to play into certain
Hmm.
types of teams. And I've really enjoyed Reg E from the perspective of being more stress free and not grinding. Where Reg B and Reg C, I was in the lab every night. I was in that lab just like, all right, what are we doing? How are we adjusting for this? How are we adjusting for this? What can I do to tech for this? What can I do to tech for this? And like minute changes every single day on Showdown, on Limitless Tours, on this, on that. Really trying. And then Reg D Worlds, I went all in. There was a month where I just dedicated all my free time to prepping for Worlds. So then after Worlds, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a chill pill on Reg D, but I still played a lot because I was like, I'm going to Pittsburgh. I'm going to locals and
Right.
stuff. Reg E was my first break, so I very much enjoyed Reg E, and not for the reasons other people did or didn't like it. It's because I kind of gave myself a mental break, which was cool to see.
That's very.
Yeah,
Colin,
that's
can I
super.
just say something really, really quickly? I
Yeah,
want to
cool.
ask the viewers to free me from this. I'm surrounded by Psy Spam and Dozo players. Somebody help me.
I was gonna
I
say
got
when Tommy
people.
said that he loved the 222 with Lily Cole, Size Mendoza. I'm sure like everyone was rolling over in the chair. Like
I'm
that's
just
just
melting over here. I'm like, somebody send help, please.
Lily Cole
that's
is my
hilarious.
favorite mode right now, man. Like I love leading Lilligant Torkoal in a game too when I think I know what they're gonna lead,
Yeah.
and I'm like, wait, they're gonna over adjust for side spam. Let me lead Lilligant Torkoal right here and have some fun, and I giggle every time I get it right,
I
and then I
just can
cry every time I
I
miss a
can
safe letter.
picture Tommy leading that in person and just sitting there going hee.
Yeah, right in their face. Ask any of the New Jersey cats. Ask any of the Long Island cats.
It's too funny. It's funny because like I've been playing like I had Sacramento as a regional in Regulation E, but other than that I've been pretty much just grinding locals and there's like one player that pretty much consistently was bringing the Lily Cole size spam dozo stuff to every local, and every time I'd have to face him, I was like, oh my god, seriously, like I have to face this again.
Yep.
Which is funny coming from another 222
Yep.
player, but I hate Lily Cole, so I was just like, oh,
I
I
gotta
hate
ask you
facing this.
guys about. I saw an evil 222. The guy did well in the tournament last night on a Tuesday tour. Um, Berserker Goldango, Pelipper Urshifu,
Yep.
Dozo Tattoo. I would love your thoughts.
Okay, so my thoughts on this is I actually played that exact team, and I'd imagine it's the same player. He's been playing it for a while now. In the one
Yeah,
Himi,
yeah.
in the one Himi Turner tournament that I won, that was my finals matchup. I had to figure that out in finals and see what that was going on. Thankfully, I got the reads right on what was going on on like 2 out of the 3 games. But like, that was a stressful team. It was very interesting to see that like steal spam, I guess we can call it. But like, it was
I like that
Yeah.
steel spam.
definitely not something I'm prepared for. That's for sure.
I was like Choice Specs, Terra Steel, Steely Spirit, Stab. What the hell is going on, man?
Yeah, they're sending it.
It's an interesting concept, and I think like now we can kind of shift our focus and the conversation towards team building, and I have a lot of questions for you guys and for us to talk about. But it's a it's a point in team building where it's I think like a lot of people have talked about this where if you use mons that people aren't prepared for, like if you use like the standard stuff, right? Then if you're those are standard for a reason and they're going to be really good teams. And you can win with those, but people are going to obviously have played those teams a bunch of times. But if you use something like Berserker, like people aren't prepared for that. People aren't prepared for those calcs, and so you can catch a lot of people off guard, and it can be something that's a really big advantage for you if you're using something niche that ends up working out to be good.
And
I guarantee once per tournament, someone asks him what Steely Spirit does.
yep, checks out.
Guaranteed.
But just back on that point, Conk, I really want to emphasize like what you just said, right? When you're using common things, and I saw this at my local scene these last few weeks, right? Because the first set in November of locals, it was 3 PCs. I only got a chance to play in 2 of them, but I won both of them undefeated, and the team felt like it was clicking on all cylinders. The matchups were favorable. I was just kind of walking in, going with my mojo, winning. Leads were good. Everything else felt great. So I was like, what do I need to change it for going into last weekend's PCs? And everything just felt so much harder. I'm not saying I got counter teamed because the meta is just shifting that quickly. And when
Yeah.
I said
No, it
this
is.
team, it's getting harder and harder to play, that is exactly what I meant. Thankfully, I had some decent results this weekend anyways. But like,
Mhm.
it was not nearly as comfortable as it was a couple weeks ago. And just like that, all of a sudden, that's kind of to your point of, well, everybody kind of saw this team rising and now kind of realizes, okay, this is how I have to play against it. These are my answers to it, right? So they know how to play against the team, and all of a sudden it was harder to pilot. And it's just going to happen. That's the
Yep.
nature of the game, nature of team building. But that does say something. Is it worth it to build something completely out there, or at least a little bit more out there with just enough of a change, right?
I like using
Yeah.
the more obscure item. If I have like the scope lens razor claw,
Yes.
now pixie plate, fairy feather, you could do the same. That I feel I always do just in case.
Mhm.
You know,
You
in
never
case
know.
someone doesn't
And
know.
funny story
Yeah.
about that, VGC history time. So back in, I believe it was like either 2017 or 2018, before open team sheets were a thing, right? And people would, scope lens was a thing before. And I think even a little bit in the Dynamax era as well, people would do this. And people would be like, hey, are you using, oh, you crit me a lot. Was that scope lens? And then people would legitimately just have the other item and they would go, no. Because like they weren't scope lens, they were was it Razor Claws the other one? Right? They just weren't
Yeah.
scope
Razor
lens. So they
Claw.
weren't lying. They're not scope lens, but you know, people would do it just simply to say, when someone asked me if I was scope lens, I wanted to be able to say no. Like,
Oh, I would have lied straight to your face in closed team sheet era.
That's too funny. And a
but
close
see,
team
now
sheet era was
they don't have to lie. They're not scope lens.
Yeah.
That's so
That's too funny. Okay, so kind of shift the conversation. We're already kind of headed there anyway, but literally tomorrow, or actually when this episode drops, it'll
This
be the day
episode's gonna be
of the
out by then.
DLC
Yeah.
dropping.
Yeah.
Yep, the DLC will be dropping tomorrow, as of when we're recording, and I think a lot of people. There's a very big thing where a lot of mons are coming back, a lot of new mons that are going to be introduced. There's going to be a new Terra mechanic that we don't know much about.
Yep.
But I think a big question that a lot of people generally have is how do you approach team building in a new format when there's a lot new mons being introduced? You kind of don't know right off the bat what's really good, what's not. How do you kind of approach that, especially when you have like a big event like something like a Portland or something like that first weekend of January, where you have not that much time to see kind of other tournament results?
Can I start with this one?
Yeah, you can start. I've got some points too,
Yeah,
but go for it.
Use your favorite Pokemon. Use your favorites and have fun. Don't worry about meta, this or that or that. It's the wild freaking west in the beginning of every new format. Blaziken, one of my first ever favorite mons. I am so excited to slap this guy on a team, have some speed boost shenanigans, try to get a Swords Dance up and go.
Yep.
And like that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited for Whimsicott because I like Annihilate again. I think Annihilate is gonna make a comeback. So it's like, okay, now there's a lot of intimidating in the format. Incineroar's coming back, probably gonna have 50+% usage again, because that cat's everywhere. So it's like, all right, how can I use and Whimsicott was one of my favorites in draft leagues in Sword and Shield. I loved that thing. I absolutely love the versatility with it. The Prankster Encores, like it's like Volbeat but better, right? Or Illumise but better, whichever one's good. It's like that one but better. And there's a lot of fun Pokemon. Like, I can't wait to have a Yanmega and a Blaziken on the court at the same time. Just double protect and get 2 speed boosts and go.
As they
And-
set Trick Room in front of you. Thanks, Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
And
supposed
yeah,
to
I
be a
get Trick
team.
Room then. But no, it's just like, that was the first, in ORAS, when my friend Kenny, he first taught me how to play. Like, every single team I made had Blaziken, Yanmega, Mamoswine on it.
Yep.
And I was just like, I love these Pokemon. Dragonite 2 was in there. And I rotated the last 2 pieces. And I just had fun, like, me and my friend Kenny would play in ORAS, like, very casually. But every single team I built had my favorite mons. And now, seeing some of those return, I'm like, oh, let's get back to the lab. Let's see if I can make them work now that I have a more understanding of how to play, how to, like, compete in this actual game. And let's see the updated meta. Let's see if I can make some of my favorites work. And that's going to be my approach, which is probably not,
See,
like, everyone else's.
I'm going to jump in really quickly, Conk. I'll let you talk just before I actually get to my main points. But on Tommy's point, I really want to say that I think that's something a lot of people forget about, is that this is the time to try a bunch of different things. This is the time to just have fun with the game. Not that you can't have fun with the game as the meta develops, but this is where if you want to sit on the field with, let's just say, a Toucannon, because Toucannon is your favorite Pokemon, and you want to play 60 games with Toucannon,
Right.
you're actually going to get something from playing 60 games with Toucannon, because yes, you might not be building the best team in the format, but you're going to be watching other people's teams develop as you're playing your games, and you're going to be able to take stuff away. So yeah, you're going to have some fun with Toucannon. Not to say that Toucannon's bad. Maybe Toucannon's going to be goated, right? That was just an example, guys. Don't attack me. No one attack me in the comment section. Oh, Toucannon's
I'm a
so good, Ryan. What do you
self-bullet
mean?
Self-bullet seed my Annihilate.
But you guys get what I'm saying, right? This is kind of the time where it's okay to try some things, to explore some things, but it's a little different going into a regional and stuff like that. So I will talk about that as well. But Conk, your thoughts first. You haven't talked too much today.
We've been doing all the talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say like something along the same lines where it's I like to like when there's a new format and there's a lot of new mons dropped, I will use a team that I'm comfortable with. Like for example, when Regulation D dropped, and so right after Regulation C, when I was using that Glamora Dozo team, I would just hop on ladder for the first week or two with that Glamora Dozo team and see, okay, A, first, how good are these mons still? How good are any of this? But B, what are other people identifying
Mhm.
that are the new good mons? Like, what are other people identifying that, okay, these are the strong cores? Because you can kind of let some of the other people do the work for you. You know, there's a lot of
Yeah.
mods that are going to be introduced, and a lot of people are going to try new stuff, and you can kind of just say, okay, I'm gonna watch for a little bit. I'm gonna play a bunch of games with the team that I know is at least decent,
Mhm.
and it may not be as strong as anymore in the new format, but it's something that I can at least get some wins with because I know just comfort. But really, I'm just trying to grind the ladder and see what other people are testing out and kind of take some of those thoughts and say, okay, maybe going into this new format, let's say you've never played a previous VGC game before, like you've never played Sword and Shield or prior. Maybe you don't really know how good Incineroar is, right? Going into this new format. But I promise you, as you start to play, you're gonna see, okay, Incineroar is on every team. You're gonna see that, okay, that's a really strong mod that I'm gonna have to watch out for. And now you can kind of think, okay, what is good against Incineroar, or should I be using Incineroar myself? You know, and so that's where Tommy says, okay, like the Annihilate has Defiant, right? It's good against Parting Shot. Like that's something that where,
Yep.
okay, Annihilate seems like it's in a pretty good spot. Or you know what, Incineroar actually helps me a lot versus my side spam matchup,
Yes.
which, by the way, tragic. That side spam will be dead pretty much
Let's
after Incineroar comes back.
go.
I don't see it. Yep.
You're gonna have you're
I
gonna
don't
have
think
a
it's
few
gonna be
crazy
dead.
players, Tommy, that are gonna try it, but
Yeah. I think it won't be as dead as it was with Ting Lu, because I think Ting Lu is just like
yeah.
the ultimate side spam killer. I think Incineroar will be deal
I
with
use
you can
side spam
handle
in the
it with
team move
Luna
memos.
and stuff like
Yeah,
that, but it's we'll have to see. We'll have to see.
for
But
sure.
Don't talk
yeah,
about
I
that
think
moose,
like
please.
you can see it. What was that?
I said, please don't talk about that moose. That Ting Lu. I hate that thing.
All right, that's fine.
Ting Lu is the
I'm
worst.
dressing up
I
as
hated
Ting
Ting
Lu for
Lu.
Halloween next year just to scare Tommy.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Conk. You were making good points. But yeah,
Yeah,
well,
so I
like,
think like there's a lot of merit to just kind of sitting
yeah,
back and like playing games and just watching and getting that
Yep.
experience of like what other people are using, so you can kind of capitalize on that and kind of use either those mons or use something that is going to counter it.
I am that person though that Conk said that's going to be testing things. So my big thing is I actually like taking, like I've already have videos on like cores that I want to use and stuff like that, and I am going to be testing those cores because there's tons of things that I want to try out, and I'm probably going to be sitting down and playing, I don't know, 15 games, maybe 15 to 20 games with each of these cores, and just to see what kind of clicks with me, what doesn't click with me, and that's kind of how I like to approach it as a from a personal aspect, especially if I'm not rushed into going to like a major event or anything like that, because it just gives me time to say, okay, this team is a good team, but it's not necessarily my comfort zone, or that I'm not necessarily clicking with it all that well. So I can just move on to another team. But the team itself was actually a decent concept, so I should probably watch out for that while I'm building, etc., etc. I can keep kind of rolling with that. But in my opinion, if you are going to a regional, let's say Portland, which I believe is what, January 9th or the first weekend there,
right
whatever
after
it
the
is.
format switch. Yeah, it's right
If
after the
you are
format
going
switch.
to a Portland, or if you are even honestly even Charlotte, because you're only going to have one sense of like the meta development from Portland and going into Charlotte, that
Yeah.
if you are building,
Yep.
my biggest recommendation is make your team have a purpose. And as a
Yes.
balanced player, my teams tend to not realistically have a purpose, especially in a lot of the teams that do fall into this strategy of just being a little bit more balanced approached tend to just are either a little bit more reactive. But early in the format, I strongly advise having a way to win games regardless of what your opponent is doing. So have that designated lead. Like something like a Tornert. I'm not saying use Tornert again, don't get me wrong. But
I
like
am. No.
having that something that can just kind of say, when in doubt, I lead this. This is my strategy with this team. This is what this team is meant to do. Gives me that, right? And whether or not that's back in the day, it was fake out Geomancy, or you go back to the Snorlax Mimikyu eras, Trick Room Belly Drum, right? You can always see that at the beginning of formats. Obviously, it lasts like into the formats as well, but just at the beginning, especially having a way to just take the game, rather than just adapting to the game and what's in front of you, is incredibly important, because you don't know what you're gonna have to adapt to at these early meta things, right? Like, you legitimately could pull somebody with a Toucannon who's identified Toucannon as the meta call at Portland. You never know, right? And because of that, it's just optimal, in my opinion, at least at the start of the formats, to, yes, you can run balance, but make sure you have a mode where you can say, okay, I'm going to push my Tailwind mode onto these guys, or I am going to, in this case, maybe you want to go Trick Room and you want to send Trick Room onto your opponent, right? Just having that mode, the way to do something with your team, is just good advice in general, but I think it's especially prominent at early format, where like you can fall for that trap of reacting to something that's just not there. So having something to push yourself forward is the way to go.
Yo, actually, I didn't realize that I love that, because now I'm looking at players who I've seen do well in early formats, and they usually build teams like that. Like, I want to shout out Almost Good Enough Gaming Noah. He's a friend of mine that made that Rock Blast Hisui Arcanine into Annihilate setup team with Hisui and Gudra. And if you didn't do specific things into that team, he was just gonna roll you. He was just gonna, like, he almost made day 2 of Beast. No, I think he did make day 2 of Beast Coast with it. And it's like, and then Mezzi picked it up and used it very well too. And seeing Mezzi, who's like a great player, pilot a team it has that much of a. It's like, all right, I want to set up Gudra, I want to set up Annihilate, and I'm gonna like make your life living hell for the next 10-15 minutes. And that, like, seeing players who build with a purpose doing well at early formats, I didn't connect those dots, but you're 100% right, Ryan. Like, that totally clicked in my mind. Now I like that correlation between the players who I see building with a purpose and the players I see doing well in the early formats. So thank you for pointing that out.
Whereas, like, even look at Wolf's team. I mean, he had beginning of Regulation E, he had the Sinister Snorlax Komodo team. That is the definition to me of exactly what I'm trying to say. Is that team was meant to do something. It had very dedicated lines. I'm either going to set up Snorlax, I'm going to set up Komodo, and I'm going to support them well, right? That team was functioning on its own regardless of what it was going up against, and that's exactly what I'm getting at.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. So it sounds like you heard it here first. Sablei's recommending you either use Dozo or Psyspam, something like that, because
I did not say either of those things, actually.
The keys.
I did not say either of those things. I said have a mode that forces the issue. If you choose Dozo or Psyspam, you are doing that to yourself. I said something this weekend, and I think I had like 3 people come up to me and go, "That was really well said." And because everybody knows I hate Psyspam, it's not a secret, right? I do not respect Psyspam, but I respect the player using it. And I respect the player because, like, at the end of the day, we are all in this game. We're either trying to have fun or win. If you are having fun with Psyspam, keep playing the game. It's obviously you're having fun with it. If you are trying to win and you think Psyspam is your best bet, I respect 100% everything you're trying to do. The only thing I do not respect is the team itself, but that has nothing to do with the people piloting it. Like, that's kind of been my mentality at it. Like, I cannot stand Psyspam. Yep, is it good? Can it get wins? Yes. Is it my style of play? Do I absolutely hate it? You know I hate it. But, like, you know, I'm not gonna knock somebody just like, oh, they're a Psyspam player or they're a Dozo player, right? They're not good. You'll never catch me saying that, because, like, if you think one of those teams is your best bet at winning or your best bet to have fun with, depending on what your goals are in the game, I'm never going to say no to that. Like, absolutely 100% respect the decisions. Just know I don't like the team. That's all I'm saying.
I am going to try to help Connor win one of your locals so bad with a Psyspam team. Shout out Connor Mimistu. I love that dude. And, like, he brings Psyspam to Toronto locals against Jesse, against Olivia, against Ryan. And that's hard. It's not easy.
Yeah, no, it's not. I actually haven't played him yet, by the way, at a local, which is kind of kind of wild.
That's funny.
Psyspam sleeper agents. I want them everywhere.
So Ryan kind of alluded to this with the Toucannon, but I'm curious on your guys' thoughts on, no spoilers, but just the confirmed returning Mons. curious on what your guys' thoughts are. What's going to be, like, give us a preview of what you think is going to be good, or what current mons you think are going to be good because of mons.
Incineroar. No, I'm just kidding. Tommy, go ahead.
I already mentioned Annihilate a few times.
That's the
I
easiest
I got my first ever championship points with Annihilate. Rhyperior with Terra. That scares me a lot. I'm very excited to see what Rhyperior can do in this format. Scrolling through, we got another water user fake out. I don't think Blastoise is going to be good though, just because the Dynamax was it felt very necessary. Ryan, I'll let you talk about the legendary dogs or cats or whatever they are.
No, they're dogs. They're dogs. We're having this debate here too. I don't care. You can throw facts at me. You can say that they're cats. I don't care. In my eyes, they're dogs. I don't care what you say. Anyways, sorry, Tommy.
No,
100%.
Yeah, I'm really excited for Primarina too. I think Primarina's a really cool Pokemon that I want to explore building with more. Reunculus is going to ruin lives in Draft League. I don't know if it's going to be great in actual VGC, but there might be a small niche for it. And Flygon, again, as a Ruby Sapphire guy, Ruby Sapphire Emerald were the last games I played in middle school. I got a little nostalgia for those games. I want Flygon to be good, even though I think it's crap. Let me look at its stats again.
Don't do it, Tommy. It's gonna be sad. You're just gonna get sad. Save it till the DLC comes out. Just look at its stats after. Just look at the stats after. It's just not gonna be good.
Yeah, no, I'm never using it.
It's just sadly not there. It's a really cool mod. I love Flygon by design as well, but it has not aged well in the metagame and the competitive scene at all.
You know what has very similar stats, which is funny? Toucanon.
Yeah.
Wait, Toucanon. It's they both have 80 base HP. They each have defense, a special attack, and special defense within 5 points of each other. The only difference is the speed and the attack. So, yeah, I guess our boy Toucanon is not going to do well.
One mon that I'm going to say, I mean, I am going to talk a little bit about the dogs as well, but I'm going to jump in here because I want to let Conk talk because Conk hasn't said, I don't know, I feel like me and Tommy are just talking the entire podcast and Conk's like, okay, time for the next concept. But one I really want to point out that is a complete wild card pick. Okay? And you guys are going to be like, what is he you guys are going to actually ask me what I'm cooking. And I'm going to go with Cincino or Centino, however you want to say it.
No, I don't. K. DeMarty, that madman. I respect Cinchino because of K. DeMarty.
Okay.
That guy swept so many people with it. It's a good Pokemon.
Not only is it a good Pokemon, keep an eye on its abilities. Before it was, do I run Technician or do I run Skill Link? Now, with loaded dice, you run Technician all the time. You now get Technician loaded dice. Rock Blast. I believe it gets Bullet Seed as well.
Whip.
It is faster than Urshifu, might I add you.
Yeah.
It is now faster than Urshifu. You are going to be hitting Urshifu with Bullet Seed before it moves, probably 4 to 5 times. Whether or not it gets the kill is up in the air because its attack stat is its attack stat is a tad bit low at 95. However, Technician, hitting 4 times, it's over a 100 base power move. It's gonna be hitting hard. I think it's a mon that people aren't gonna really see too often, but I definitely think it could definitely make throw a curveball into the meta at some point.
I wanted to ask you guys about another Pokemon too, Malamar. Do you think that's gonna ever?
Wait, before we move on from Cinchino, one thing I want to say on that is if it gets Population Bomb, that's a whole different story. Then I think it'll be fantastic.
They're
crazy,
okay.
But
no. Game Freak is crazy with the moves they give to Pokemon. They are not giving that thing Pop Bomb. If they give that thing Pop Bomb, I don't know. I don't know.
That'd be awesome. That would be insane.
Yeah. All right. So sorry, Tommy. What were you saying about Malamar?
Do you think it's going to be good? Is there going to be a lot of setup in this format? Is it going to go burr? Is it just going to go quick and not a lot of setup?
See, I can see Malamar having success.
Yeah, I don't see Malamar being very good.
I just think Contrary is an ability that gives it a chance. I don't think it's going to be meta-defining by any means, but I think every now and then you're going to see that Malamar team pop up or a Malamar team pop up and you're going to go, oh, what's my Malamar answer? And if depending on how many teams it can actually catch off guard with that, that's up in the air. But I agree with Conk. It's not going to be big. It's not going to be a meta relevant mon, but it's going to be one of those mons that you're going to be like, oh yeah, that's a mon that exists. Wait a second, what do I have for this thing, right? And it's similar to the Lurantis back in the day. It's like wasn't like the most used meta mon, but it was a mon that was around, and you'd look at it and go, oh yeah, I forgot, I have no answer to this thing. Oh well, I lose, right? Like it's gonna be there because its ability kind of does that. It gives it a chance to just surprise people with a mon they're not ready for. But I don't think it's gonna be defining the meta by any means.
I hated Lurantis in my Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon playthrough or Sun and Moon playthrough. Whenever like it swept me like 4 times. My friend was making fun of me. He's like, "You really can't beat Lurantis?" I was like, "No, I can't beat Lurantis."
Fun story about Malamar. Quick anecdote. But some of my first CP ever was in Sword and Shield, the like global challengers or the international challenge. I forget what they were called. But I ran Calyrex Ice with I think it was like Kyogre Calyrex Ice, but it was Malamar with Topsy Turvy and like Trick Room, and so like with DD, and so it would go down, and then people would just intimidate spam, and I would Topsy Turvy and turn like a -2 into a +2 Calyrex, and then just sweep from there, or do the same thing to like opposing weakness policy Solgaleos. They'd be +2 and they'd go down to -2.
Yep.
I got like 2 CP because like the CP like payouts were like terrible for those global challenges, but like I got like in the top 128, 256, something like that, and so then I got like 2 CP off of that, and I was super proud of that team because it was actually hilarious, but it was super good. Like it was actually really, really good.
We had a local.
There was a lot of
I do not think that will be.
We had a local back in the day in 2019, I believe it was 2019, and they would run the Topsy Turvy Malamar for the Xerneas. So the Xerneas was set up, they Topsy Turvy, and it would be a -2. Right? Like you can definitely do some fun things with Malamar.
Like that.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Are there any other Pokemon that have crap types?
Yeah. So.
Sorry. Oh, go. I'm sorry.
Sorry, say that again.
I was like, I was saying, are there any other Pokemon?
Tommy takes 1 week off. We're not even in sync anymore, guys. It's over. It's over. Wrap it up.
I know.
Okay. I'm gonna moderate. Tommy, go. What were you gonna say?
That's the end of the pod, guys. That's the end.
All right. I was gonna ask if there's any Pokemon like Rhyperior or like Malamar or just like really crap typings that are gonna have a niche in Terra now because they could change out of that crap typing.
You know, I like Rhyperior I think Rhyperior is the perfect definition of that because it gets Solid Rock as its ability, and you all of a sudden you can become you have a huge defensive stat, right? You're a Rhyperior, so you go Terra Water. Let's just say Terra Water because now you're resisting the Urshifu's. The Iron Hands is going to be clicking Wild Charge into your massive defensive stat with Solid Rock, so you're cutting your damage, the damage output there. And the only other thing that really affects you is grass. If the grass type is Rillaboom, now not being 4 times weak to it, you're weak to it anyways, but like that's Rillaboom you can probably get around, you know, like you get the Intimidate, you get the Fire.
That's not Amoonguss.
Yeah, you joke, but like that was a thing before. Like we've seen everything. Anyways, Conk, what were you gonna say?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'll let Sableye talk about the legendary dogs, but another legendary trio, the swords of I forget what they're called, the Cobalion, Terrakion,
Swords of Justice,
Virizion.
Yeah.
I think
you it.
So I've seen some people like pop up about there it is. So they obviously get justified as ability, and it was a pretty common combination with beat up on Whimsicott, and you can kind of just tailwind beat up and get to +4 and just sweep teams. And I think that was a lot easier in Dynamax. And I don't know how they were used or how good they were prior to Sword and Shield, but I personally don't see them being that great.
I know the answer.
This time around, I don't think Cobalion stats are too great. And like Terrakion, like you're relying on like Rock Slide and stuff like that. I don't see that being as good as people were kind of expecting going into this. I do think Whimsicott on its own will be really, really good. I don't think it'll be better than Tornadus. I don't know if that's a hot take or not, because I think Torn Urshifu's is still going to be so good, but I think Whimsicott will be really good on like hyper offense teams because then you can encore, you can go for fake tiers, stuff like that. But yeah, I don't see the that trio being too great.
Can I speak on this, please? So
Oh,
Yeah, go for it.
Terrakion Whimsicott is an absolute menace of a core, okay? And it does lose value, Conk. You are 100% correct. I don't think it's going to hold up in this metagame at all, but only for the specific reason of that this core used to be considered fast. These Pokemon were base 116 and base 108. They were faster than Garchomp. But, like, I'm not even joking. Like, when I first started playing,
yeah.
Garchomp was considered a fast Pokemon. Garchomp is not fast
Me
anymore.
too.
And you could even arguably
Yeah.
say that these two Pokemon aren't fast
Mid.
anymore at base 108 and 116, which is absolutely insane when you think about it, right? Because its
Yeah.
whole niche was, well, you kind of need to get Tailwind up to kind of counter me. But you can't get Tailwind up because I'm just going to match the Tailwind.
Yeah.
But now, they can just match your Tailwind with a Flutter Mane on the field and you're going to go down, right? Obviously, there's Terra to get around it. Maybe Terra Steel, Ironhead, Terrakion. You are going to see
Careful.
this core get tested. It's just, I don't think it's going to be nearly as menacing or as dominant as it was in the past, but it does deserve to get tested still. I don't think it's one of those, oh, we can write it off, it's not going to be used.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those cores that's like, if you don't have an answer to it, you're probably going to get steamrolled by it. And because of that, I'm intrigued to say that
Yeah.
maybe it's going to be good just because it's going to catch people like maybe not expecting it. Like, it's similar to Dondozo, right? The worse Dondozo gets, almost in a way, the better Dondozo becomes because people drop answers for it. So it creeps back in.
Yeah.
Similar to this, right? If people are not
Right.
having
Yeah.
answers for it, it can kind of come back into the meta and do some things. But I agree that it's probably not going to be nearly as menacing as it once was.
Draft leagues. In draft leagues, that's where it's going to be a problem. If you let someone draft both of them, like as a draft player, that's immediately where my mind went. When there's less answers to stop it,
Yep.
it becomes way better.
Well, and you can also,
But
in draft
we
leagues,
can
it's
see
different too because you can kind of look and say, okay, you know exactly what your opponent has to stop it, and you know exactly how you need to build around it. So, like, I think draft leagues are a whole different beast, but, like,
I think that core is going to dominate draft leagues.
Yeah.
it always will. One Pokemon before, I do want to talk about the legendary beast, but I definitely want to bring up this one Pokemon because I feel like this one Pokemon is getting a lot of attention, and I can't decide on whether or not which way I think it's gonna go. So I want to hear your thoughts on it, and I'm gonna throw it out there.
I think I know what you're gonna. I think you know what
I
you're
have
gonna.
no
All right,
idea.
Tommy,
I have
count
no
us in.
idea.
We're gonna say it at the exact same time.
3, 2, 1.
Metagross.
Metagross.
Yeah, that was not
Yep,
at the
yep.
exact same time because Discord sucks. But Metagross, yes. All right.
Yeah.
We could edit that, right?
No,
I say we,
no, I
as a
can't
real
edit
we.
that. If I edit that, I shift everybody. All the audio is gonna be off the entire video.
So, what do you think it will
Yeah,
be?
I
a
agree. I don't
Terrahog?
think it'll be good.
I don't think it'll. I think it needs to be a Terrahog to work.
Okay. Here's my take on Metagross. I think it is garbage right now. But
Yep.
I feel like if the meta develops in a way that benefits it, it is 100% going to see usage. And I say that and oh, it's like a cop-out answer. If the meta develops into a way that benefits it, what's that even mean, Ryan? Come on, right? But, like, if the Fluttermanes are still around, if they stop running a lot of bulk, it can
How
be
much
that
does Bullet
piece,
Punch
right?
do it?
You can't intimidate this. You do need Life Orb or a Choice Band to knock out the Fluttermane with a Bullet Punch. But if Terra Fairy
Okay.
remains the same as the main Terra type on Flutter, you can't get intimidated. You just have a Fluttermane answer. There's something to be said about that. Now, obviously, do I think it's going to be a bit of a Terra hug outside of that? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is it going to be that back in the day where you like bulldoze proc your weakness policy beside your bulldoze Salamence? Probably
I
not.
don't think-
Just the nature of the game doesn't really allow for that anymore all that much. But I don't think it's gonna see too much usage. Like without the boosting item or anything like that, it's not picking up the KO on Fluttermane, and it just doesn't feel optimal. But I do think that if Fluttermane becomes hyper offense, stays Terra Fairy, maybe Metagross comes into the play, you can deal around. Because obviously you probably beat Rillaboom unless they're running high horsepowers as well. I think there's a niche for it, but it definitely isn't gonna be I don't want to say that it's not going to be meta relevant because I feel like people are going to use it. It's a Metagross after all, but I don't think it's going to be amazing.
Do you think it'll be like 10% usage most of the format?
5.
5.
Maybe
Here's the
lower.
sauce. Here's the sauce. Ready? Ready? Here's the sauce for Metagross.
Okay.
For Metagross. Assault Vest, Terra Water. You're gonna counter like Fluttermane, Tornadus. You can Terra Water for the Chi-Yus. You good against bundles, stuff like that. And then even good against Psy Spam.
Yeah.
And then you can run Bullet Punch. You can run,
Yep.
a Psychic move like Zen Headbutt for Urshifu, stuff like that. So I think it'll be okay. I think like it'll
Right.
have like on certain comps it'll be an answer to like some of the threats. Clear Body, it's obviously a really good ability.
Yep.
It's not going to be like, I don't think it's going to be the aggressive like offensive threat. I think it's going to be like okay, this thing can, let's make it bulky, let's let it stick around, let's have that priority Bullet Punch, let's have something that can be a good, like I think it'll be a good special mod like counter. Like I think it'll be a
Yeah.
good Assault Vest user.
That's fair.
I don't see it being like this, like, okay, let's put a band, let's put a Life Orb on it and just KO things, because I don't think it's gonna, I don't think it's fast enough, or it's just strong enough to pick up some of those KOs. Like, it's funny because at a local this past weekend, I overheard one of our like good players locally, like Linty, he was using I think Lucario with
Yeah.
Bullet Punch. He needed like Helping Hand with a Life Orb to like pick up, like he was like, everyone's used to Technician Bullet Punch calcs from Scizor, but without Technician, like the Bullet Punch doesn't pick up those bulky Fluttermane, so you need that Helping
Yep.
Hand, you need that Life Orb, something like that. And so I think Metagross will need help like that, but I think it'll be better served as a little bit more of a bulky mon that can stick around and deal damage
Just-
over time and just be hard to remove.
Just on your
That's
Terra Water
my
point.
that's the sauce.
Just really quickly on your Terra Water point. What I find very, very funny
Yep.
is this is gonna happen in one of like the global challenges. They're not confirmed yet, but I'm sure we're gonna get global challenges, guys. Anyways,
I thought they were
are they confirmed? I don't know. Either way, regardless, we're gonna get them. And
the date.
what's gonna happen is someone's gonna lead a Metagross, someone's gonna lead an Instant on the other side. Metagross is gonna be staring down an Instant. It's gonna go Terra Water. They're gonna switch in a Shenpao. They're gonna Terra Water, Terra Blast, and kill the Instant. That is what's gonna happen at some point. Mark it down right now. It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
I might be the one doing it.
That's I could definitely see that. I could definitely see that.
Because Shenpao Metagross
and then-
doesn't
okay,
sound like a
so-
bad core. Sorry.
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah, okay, Sable, you gotta talk about him, or else I'm going to. Suicune, Entei, and then,
Yeah.
their sad little brother, Raikou.
Raikou. I love Raikou.
Okay,
I think
okay,
Raikou's gonna be very
time.
good too.
Raikou's
Okay,
gonna
I
be
think
good
we'll
stuff.
talk about one each. I'll take Suicune. Tommy clearly likes Raikou for whatever reason,
Okay.
so we'll get Tommy to do that. Conk, you good
I'll
with
take
that?
Entei. I'll take Entei.
All right. So for me,
I'll take
Suicune,
Entei.
I'm gonna say it right now. This Pokemon will only be good if it still gets access to Scald. If they take Scald away from Suicune and remove any reliable water damage from it, it is over. I could maybe see a case being made if they give it chilling water, but it does not do enough damage to justify a normal, like a regular old water move. A Hydro Pump's not worth the risk of the miss. You don't have the damage output for it. Chilling water is not enough, but at least it's a kind of a thing where you get the attack drop, which is kind of cool. But it's probably not worth it either. Scald being able to do some decent damage, potentially get the burn as well, feels incredible. But it's just such a nice piece. It is right up my play style, where you get a few attacks. You get Scald, maybe Icy Wind, maybe Ice Beam. Snarl, I think, is a really cool option as well.
Yeah.
And then you get stuff like that Tailwind. It's going to take a lot to knock out a Suicune, right? And I kind of came up with this core the other day that I really am very intrigued to test now, which is Suicune, Rillaboom, Landorus. And the concept was Suicune does not like Iron Hands. Now I have a Rillaboom, so now I have the faster Fake Out. And now I have the Landorus for not only switch in potential, but also intimidate potential. Rillaboom Landorus does an incredible job versus Iron Hands. And now you've patched that with a Suicune. And Scarf Landorus does not appreciate opposing speed control. Now you have your own speed control to keep that back in your favor. And you also have Rillaboom for priority stuff that just feels incredibly good. And Grassy Terrain plus lefties onto Suicune. Just going to heal that thing up. You're going to really have to start packing more of a punch than you want to in order to hit it. That course seems incredibly strong to me. That's kind of where I'm at with Suicune right now. I think it's going to be a very good mod. People are going to try it. But I do think it really relies on that Scald. If it doesn't get it, it's a sad day.
I mean, to your point, even I think like against the Iron Hands, like you can just switch into Lando and go for Chilling Water. Suddenly the Iron Hands is at -2.
Yep.
That could be
Yep.
kind of cool. But I agree, like it's not it's not doing a lot. Like the burn chance is so good
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
getting rid of that would be really tragic.
Back in the day, it was, you can take 6 or 7 hits and dish out 5 or 6 hits, right? Before you're not going to get the kills, but you're going to
Yeah.
win those damage trades over time. But the formats just are so offensive right now, especially with like the flutter mains and the big damage dealers. It's like, okay, I'm going to take a hit, but how many hits am I actually going to take? I'm not going to take the 4 or 5 that I used to. Probably only going to take 2 or 3. And is my 90 base special attack enough to
Yeah.
do what it needs to do in maybe getting only 1, maybe 2 hits off?
Spoiler alert, it's not.
Yep. Yep.
I'll find a
Alright,
way,
Tommy,
Tom.
you wanna
I will
take
find
Raikou?
a way.
Hey, Conk, you want to go next or me?
You can go. You can go.
All right. So Raikou actually loses Scald too, because it had Scald. I liked using Max, Rainstorm or whatever it was. But this thing gets 3 weathers, screens, Calm Mind, Helping Hand, Howl, Eerie Impulse. Like, there's so many different tools for support that Raikou could go. And then it's still like a bulk, like 90 HP and 100 special defense isn't bad bulk. You could Terra out of your like weaknesses to electric, which is only ground right now. So if you need to, like it's neutral into everything except ground. And if you need to get out of that ground weakness, you can. It does miss Scald. It will miss Scald. Snarl. Like it gets Aura Sphere in the past generations. It gets Extra Sensory, which I don't think is coming back. Shadow Ball. It used to get Signal Beam. If it gets Rising Voltage again. Like, I'm curious to see what it gets. And now with Terra being able to cover your one weakness, it also gets Weather Ball. So let's say you're using it on a weather team, and someone wants to switch your weather. If you want to have a strong Weather Ball, like Raikou is a good Pokemon for that, you want to set up with something. Psych Up next to it is 115 speed. You get a couple Calm Minds off and Terra into a defensive type when they have mostly special attackers. That's like, it interests me. I don't know. Maybe I'm just Raikou pilled. Maybe because it's beat me too much in draft leagues.
Completely
But
fair.
yeah, no, Snarl on Raikou is really cool too. Again, another way to stop, like, helps the Ice Spam matchup too. Conk froze for me. Is he still there?
I don't know if Conk is still here. Well, Conk is not here.
I should have let him go first.
Should have let him go first. Nah, he doesn't want to talk about Entei anyways. No one needs to hear about Entei. But while we're waiting for Conk to reconnect potentially, I am going to just quickly shout out a few other Pokemon that I don't really want to talk too long about, but like some Pokemon that I think could potentially see some usage. And I know some people have been hyped on Lapras. I don't think it's going to be good. I really don't think Lapras is going to be good. Not going to talk too much about it. Smeargle.
I don't think so either.
Let's not talk Smeargle, please. Let's just not talk about
I don't think
Smeargle.
Smeargle will be good either.
Oh.
Is that a hot take?
No, yep, Conk 100% disconnected because now on YouTube, Tommy is sitting in Conk's spot on the list. So Tommy, you are now PokemonVGC.
I'm a Dozo player.
Oh, it ended. No, not like this. All right, Conk, welcome back. We've just been killing
Sorry
some
about the
time with
technical
the.
difficulties.
I've been talking.
No, we
about...
got a hard out at 10 o'clock. You said too, so we only got 20 minutes left. So wait, let's hear you talk about Entei and then start wrapping up too.
Yep. So I think that Entei is going to be the best out of the 3.
Strongly
and historically, I think very good. And
That's
Sacred
actually true.
Fire is a super good move with like the 50% chance to burn. However, I think it's going to be worse than it has been previously. I think that Tornursh, first of all, is just a hurdle that it has to climb. But I think that Hisuian Arcanine has also kind of taken that's a spot as like an offensive fire type that just does a lot of damage with the band that has clearly done super well. And a niche over Entei is that Hisuian Arcanine actually hits Incineroar for really good damage with Rock Slide, Head Smash, stuff like that. Entei can't really do that. It has to rely on like a non-stab Stomping Tantrum, something like that. So I don't love that, but what I do think will be pretty good is priority spam. So I think Chien-Pao, Dragonite, you have Inner Focus now, Entei as an option, where you can go for those. You can go for like Life Orb, you can go for Banded, we can go for the Terra Normal Extreme Speeds. Kind of do a similar thing as Dragonite, but you also get those Banded Sacred Fires or this Life Orb Sacred Fire. So I think it's going to be good. I don't think it's going to be great. I think there's going to be a few things that are going to be holding it down, but in general, I think its ability is really good. Its coverage moves are pretty good. Sacred Fire is just so good. Its speed is pretty like it's decent enough. It's over a base 100, so
It's the
it's
best
doing
extreme speed user out of the bunch too.
yeah. I would it goes back and forth because I think the Dragonite's normal like just typing is really good against Fire Water Grass cores, and so like that can be really strong. But Entei just gives another extreme speed option. So I think it's definitely going to see some usage. It's not going to be irrelevant at all. It's definitely going to have its
Yep.
time, but I don't think it's going to be nearly as good as it has been in previous formats.
See,
It was good in Spike Moves.
and I was gonna say that it really
Yes.
hasn't had that much time in the limelight in previous formats. So I actually think this is probably gonna be one of its higher used formats. But you know,
Okay.
it gives you that other element, right? You can't get intimidated, which I think gives it an advantage over the Arcanine as well. Can't get intimidated, can't get faked out. I
Yep.
think that's where that comes in,
Yep.
and that's why it becomes one of
Yep.
those better options than maybe the Hisui and Arcanine. But I agree that it's probably going to be the best of the three by far. Unless like Suicune has something that like I'm not expecting it to have, I think Entei is probably the ideal there.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, we kind of got caught up in all the Regulation F talk and the team building talk, which super
We had
love. So
fun.
I don't think we're gonna have time for the game today, which is I think totally fine.
I'll remain champion for
We'll
another week or two.
have
I'm
to come
fine
back.
with that.
Yep.
I don't get a chance to take
Save
that.
still stays at the reigning champion. I gotta win one of these. I really gotta win one of these. But we'll be back in a couple of weeks. We'll actually have to see because a couple weeks is Christmas break, so maybe a bit longer break. But
We might take a break for Christmas again. We're selfish. We want to
yeah.
spend time with our families.
I mean, to be fair, guys, I mean, we're episodes are dropping Thursdays. If Christmas is on a Monday, I'm sure like the Wednesday we
Yeah,
can once again probably
that's
record
true.
on the Wednesday, right? Depending on time, but we can figure that out on our own time.
Yeah. We'll
I need
figure
to
out the
shout
best
out
way
my
to
Christmas
get
store though.
content to you guys. We'll
Now
make
that we're
sure.
talking about Christmas, please join my Christmas store. We're giving away $625 in prizing, $200 already donated to Toys for Tots. Please, if you want to add to or contribute, donate to Toys for Tots directly. If you tweet me the screenshot, you get a chance to FaceTime Nino Pokebros. We'll be selecting a random winner to FaceTime Nino Pokebros for 10 minutes to an hour, depending on what he wants. Timmy said he would select the winner. So, what's it called? I tweeted out a while ago. Let me pin that to my message. So if you tweet me a screenshot of you donating to Toys for Tots to my pinned message, you will have a chance to be randomly selected to FaceTime Nino Pokebros.
I will
And
leave Tommy's tour link in the description for you guys, just so because you know what, it's Reg F as well, I believe, right, Tommy?
it's gonna be Reg F
Yeah.
with $625 on the line.
Sounds like a good
That's
deal
awesome.
to me. Definitely early look at the Regulation F for sure. So definitely, if you guys are interested in
Yeah,
that, I'll
absolutely.
leave that link down below for y'all to play in. Really quickly, I
They
want
don't
to
know
really
if it's
just
6 p.m. or
before we
7
wrap
p.m.
up, Latios, two things we didn't get to talk about today, along with
True.
Primarina. But those are some other things I
Yeah.
want to talk about. But anyways, we can't get onto that today, unfortunately. Because
Primarina's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Conk has to go to work. Oh.
Oh, I'm a
Oh.
real human and I have a job. I don't sell weed all day.
Hey, I need coffee. Honestly, this was early for me. I need coffee before my first meeting. But thank you as always for listening. Hope that everyone has a great time, especially exploring Regulation F. Or if you're still in the San Antonio mode, good luck in San Antonio. We wish you all the best. But until next time, that's it for us. So thank you, everyone.
See you guys.
Hey guys.